I also want to thank Colonel Sanduki for setting the stage for me. It makes my job much easier. I will not need to talk about funding. I will not need to talk about logistics. I will not need to touch about political will. So now I will concentrate, and I hope, if I don't confuse you before we finish, I hope that we will be able to find how we can have a fully robust peacekeepers in the mission. I will apologize to my French speakers. Technology being what it is, I sent my slides, I was supposed to send them by Friday. I found out that not only in Nigeria, but even in the United States, there are some areas you cannot have email connection. So I called and I apologized. I got back to New York on Saturday, and I sent my slides to Louisa. And I thought she got them. When I had nothing from her, no news is good news. Unfortunately, 10 minutes to the start of this, we discovered that she did not get it. So she couldn't translate it to French. So my apology, please, to our French speakers. Because of that, I will attempt to read so that it can be translated. And I'm starting with talking about the most important thing, peacekeeping, whether it is robust, whether it is coordination, whether it is anything. Peacekeeping is the most important issue. And please, I want us, because my conclusion is going to be on this slide, please take note. What is the principle of peacekeeping? Consent, impartiality, non-use of force except in self-defense and in defense of the mandate and in defense of your colleague, and national or local ownership. Those are the principles. Now, when we add robust to it, it now becomes, I look at the dictionary and I found robust means strong, healthy, hale, tough. So these are the words we want to add into peacekeeping to make it strong, stout, tough. And I thought Suan was going to define robust peacekeeping for me. She did not. But from the reading that the ACSS sent to me, which I found very educative, is that robust peacekeeping is defined by those who see it as a way to fully train the peacekeepers to be strong, to be able to effectively execute their mandate, and also to be proactive. But others see that as a very narrow definition. Others say that robust peacekeeping should be that proactiveness, that if it means firing, you should fire first. That is also part of robust peacekeeping. And others define it that it is between the peacekeeping and war. Anything in between is the robust peacekeeping. And all I will say, that as peacekeepers, we should be ready not to be neutral, but we must be impartial. And I will take note of that. I will get back to it. Because peacekeepers are not supposed to stand by and see atrocities being committed. So what has happened over the years is that, as in the old days, you have conflict prevention, peacekeeping, then you have peace enforcement, and then you have peacemaking, peace enforcement, and then peacekeeping before the almighty conflict resolution, peace making, and peace building. But today, with all this definition and with what they call second generation peacekeeping, peacekeeping is now merging into peacemaking and peace enforcement. And people are talking of robust because they are pushing it into that area. We'll get back to that again, I will discuss. So, what does the peacekeepers see? The peacekeepers are seeing the real threat, as you can see from these pictures. The real threat. They are also seeing whether it is this desert in Darfur or the thick forest in DRC or whatsoever it is. That is what the peacekeepers are seeing today, the real climate change and maybe from their home and from their environment, the real casualties. And I'm happy my sister talked today about the gender mainstreaming, whereby sometimes we forget that the females are the mothers. And most of us in Africa know that if we men work half as women, we would have landed in the moon before the Americans. But what I want you to note is the real constraint: money and the human beings. We'll talk about that later. I put this slides from my experience of what I saw in Darfur. And it is the thing that is happening today in most missions and in most environments in our continent, Africa. At the beginning, that was the setting in Darfur. What happened? People start splitting, SLA split. Then they are fighting each other. Everybody, the only person he's not fighting is himself. By the time I arrived in Darfur, there were 5, 6 major groups. By the time I left 2.5 years later, there were over 28 groups. And then you have the ethnic crisis involved. What I am saying, if you are to be robust and by the definition to be proactive, when GEM is fighting SLA, who do you go to support? Who do you open fire on? And who do you stand behind? Because somebody has to defeat the other or outnumber or strengthen the other, then it's easier for him to say, let's talk. So what does it mean? Our police, our military have to be properly trained. They have to be properly equipped. They have to be properly oriented in the new environment they are going into. The training has to be real because the environment they are operating is real. So much is required of them. There is a lot of expectation down there by the people, the countries, the locals, and the international community. So the peacekeepers need that training. But what I have found, not only the peacekeepers, there are arrays of new people involved in peacekeeping, the humanitarian group, the human rights, and the humanitarian activities. I believe that the humanitarian activity has to be robust also if the environment is to be safe and if we expect the military and the police to be robust, because just like in protection of civilians, it is not only the military, it is not only the police, but it is everybody that plays a role that brings the peacekeeping. I put these slides for one thing. The meeting, we had several with the different groups. I found that it is very strange. In most UN peacekeeping, the bad guys, the rebels, the militias, or whatsoever name you call them, are no touch. You don't touch them, you don't go near them. I saw it glaringly in Sierra Leone when we were going for a peace ceasefire negotiation at the ECOWAS headquarters in Abuja. Everybody picked the government forces and the government contingent to Abuja, and nobody took the rebels to Abuja. And I don't know how the negotiation would have gone on. The only thing that happened, luckily the head of mission, who later on became the foreign minister of Nigeria, had a direct line with the president of Nigeria, and the president sent a Nigerian Air Force flight to come and pick the rebels and I to Abuja. If you don't meet them, if you don't build confidence, if you don't make them feel that, yes, though they are on the right track, they need to come back, and these are the benefits, I strongly think one of the reasons why our crises are being prolonged, I didn't say the only, I say one of the, is that there's no confidence building. The fighters are either going for government or for rebel, and the other person is the enemy. I don't believe that that is what peacekeeping should be. So what are the challenges to the peacekeeper? The peacekeepers have several challenges. Like you can see the UN peacekeeper, his head is already hot. Too many things in the head bothering him. One, he's a peacekeeper. Do you have the peace? In most of the missions we have today, the robust peacekeepers is that we are pushing peacekeepers to do the job of peace enforcers. So do they have the peace? If they have no peace, what is the principle? Consent, impartiality, not use of force. How do you want that person to keep peace if there is no peace to keep? We send people to Darfur with no peace to keep. The DPA was signed by only the government and one rebel group. So how do we want them to succeed if there is no peace to keep? The area. With due respect, I'm not saying what happened in Iraq is a war or a peacekeeping, but there were over 160,000 boots of the Americans and their allies in Iraq. What is the size of Iraq? I went into the, tried to find out, let me quote so that I'm not too wrong. Iraq is 437,072 square kilometers. Afghanistan is 625,090 square kilometers. Iraq has a population of 32 million, and Afghanistan has a population of 35 million. Yet, in DRC is over 2 million square kilometers with a population of over 68 million people. We have a mission of less than 20,000, and people cry, too many people. At one time, DRC and Sierra Leone had less than, and Darfur had less than 6,000 peacekeepers. And we want them to be proactive, we want them to be robust. Expectation. What are the expectations of the locals? When I go to Darfur, the locals were looking for UNAMID. The UN will come and they will jail all the Janjaweeds. That was their expectation. If you don't jail Janjaweeds, you have not made your mandate. So what are the expectations of people? If we expect peacekeepers to be peace enforcers, then we are getting it wrong. That is my feeling. We have to be careful and give people the job we believe they can do. Understanding and interpretation of mandate. What do the TCCs think that they are sending their troops to do? Peacekeeping. What do the international community think? Robust peacekeeping, anything between peacekeeping and war. Are we on the same hymn book? Are we on the same sheet? Are we singing the same from the same sheet? That is the problem. And what do we adhere to the principle? Yes, there may be consent, but are we impartial? I don't believe. There is a wall of difference between impartiality and neutrality. And we can talk about that in the discussion period. Use of force. I understand when you can use force to protect your mandate, but I do not understand. Like I was almost hanged in Darfur when I have less than 7,000 troops in the country as big as France. In our first week, we try to change things by try to make our logistic on road. We gave instruction, understand also there are various contingents from different areas with different understanding also of your orders. And I said it categorically that no movement after last light. I repeat, no movement after last light. Unfortunately, the young platoon commander that took that group that escorted our logistic going to one of the camps, he had traveled for 3 days because sometime in Darfur, it takes weeks to do 5 kilometers. And he was tired. And last light caught them less than 5 kilometers to the destination. And he took the risk that he wanted to go. Unfortunately, the government troops opened fire on them. He did not respond. He stopped, and after they finished firing at them, luckily nobody was killed, few injuries. The two commanders met. Oh, I'm sorry, it's UN, we didn't know. And people's every comment from New York, from everybody, the only thing I said, I trust my young commander on the ground. He has used his initiative. Whether it is wrong or right, we will talk about it later. But I ask, if he had returned fire, the nearest UN minus the camp he was going that have only 90 people, the nearest UN location would have taken us another 5 to 10 hours, depending on this way we move, to get to reinforcing. What would have happened? So it is a real big issue. The media, I will not, because of time, I will quickly run. I've been signal is coming. The media, you know, what I always think of the media, and I tell officers and soldiers that serve with me, that the media is looking for news, and it is only news that make them stand and sell. Unfortunately, good news is no news. Bad news is news. So any good thing you as a mission or as a country or a contingent will do in the mission, you hardly hear anything. Do one thing wrong, and it becomes headline news, breaking news. And I always remember what my people say in Nigeria, that when the dog bites the human being, it's no news. The day that the human being will bite the dog, headline news. Right. Let me quickly go. Let me conclude here because of time. So, how do we achieve robustness in peacekeeping? My understanding, doctrinally, it's virtually impossible to achieve this principle because we go back to the principle of peacekeeping. If we are to abide by the principle of peacekeeping, then it is going to be next to impossible to be able to achieve what we are talking of operating between war and peacekeeping. Peacekeepers are peacekeepers. What I would recommend is that the people who are forming and crafting the mandate and sending people should understand that all of them should communicate. All parties, the TCCs, whether it's the Security Council or the Peace and Security of AU or whosoever, they must sit together with the TCCs and understand and agree. Because some contingents come to the mission that they are peacekeepers and that they have their location marked on the map and they will never get out of their location. What gives the commander the flexibility now to act? How do you get people to move from one area to the other area to support? And the new thinking of, yes, he may be a first-class general. I'm not disputing about it. But to carry a force commander that have no troops, not two soldiers from his country, and put him in a mission, and expect him to succeed, I think it's a very high hurdle we are setting for people. I know that at the worst time in Darfur, because I'm a Nigerian, and because Nigeria had the largest contingent, I was able to coax, to force, and move Nigerian company across the boundary to another country to do a job because it was necessary and it must be done. All other contingents refused because they said from their capital, this is their boundary and they must operate within that boundary. How do you get robustness? How do you operate between peacekeeping and war under that system? Cooperation. How much the Susan have talked about funding. When you do not have the money, he who plays the piper dictates the tune. My sisters and brothers from Africa, let me assure you that it is only in Africa that people go because they feel they are capable to help somebody. The world thinking is that, what is my own there? What will I benefit from that? It's not out of love. So when you are expecting that people will come and rescue you because they like your face, you are making a mistake. So how much do you cooperate? How much do you get the funding? And how much do you coordinate with the barrage of humanitarians? Before you even pick a call, when I was in Darfur, before I was Sierra Leone, before you talk to the UN headquarters, the Secretary General has been reported through another line to tell you that you are sleeping. You are not doing that. Nobody, by their own perspective, not by yours as a force commander. So it is a real difficult situation. And I will say that if we want to have 1 + 1 equals 3, then at strategic level, we have to accept that this is the way this game is going to be played. And anybody coming to join must abide by those principles, which is very difficult. And Your Excellency, you will bear me out. It's very difficult to do that, we should be able to do that. What I would say finally is that if we want robust peacekeeping, it goes with numbers. Sierra Leone is an example. I was in Sierra Leone, the mandate was 15,000 troops in a country that has a size of 71,621 square kilometers. Liberia, 43,000 square kilometers with a population of 1.4. What was the mandated strength of the troops in Liberia? Not 2,000, not 3,000, they were over 10,000. Côte d'Ivoire, population of 21 million, 322,460 square kilometers was the size. How many troops? Then in almighty DRC, that is the equivalent of Western Europe. You are now giving a troops and you are calling intervention brigade. Please, I'm not a prophet of doom, but I'm saying if we expect that intervention brigade to do anything, it will do nothing. Because where will they be? At what time with the events at the size of DRC? Finally, I hope it is not what my old grandmother used to tell us when we were small. There was one medicine they called touch and go. If you have a toothache, she will tell us, go and buy, she doesn't even understand English, but she knows that one, go and buy touch and go. And when you buy that medicine, you put it on the tooth that is paining you, the pain goes down. But it doesn't heal it. It doesn't heal the pain, the tooth. But for that, it's touch and go. Honestly, if we do not coordinate and work together, we will continue to be doing touch and go, and the peacekeepers will be attacked, and the peacekeepers will be killed, and then we will continue to blame the peacekeepers for not being proactive, for not being robust. Robust starts from the strategic level and not at the operational level. What I will say is that at tactical level, we have done robustness. When I was in Darfur, one of my first directives from the force commander was that we will be stubborn in our operation. And when we walk to a checkpoint, whether it is government or rebels or anybody, if you say we won't go, we will not force you, but we will not go back. then that gives us at the level, the headquarters level, time to dialogue, not negotiate, dialogue with other people, and we get things done. And we save the face of the forces and the mission itself. That is the way I look at it. At the tactical level, you can be robust. But honestly, I feel at the operational and strategic level, unless we change the rules of the game, there is no amount of things we will do with the number of forces we tickle into a mission that will make the mission succeed. Thank you, thank you, thank you.